Right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can everyone hear me? And can I be filmed? Yes, I can. Right. My name is Antony Carpen. I'm asking the following question on behalf of Andrea Cockerton. So just bear with me. Right. They are as follows. So it's in relation to Cambridge Live, which is the last item on the agenda. Question number 1. What practical steps will the City Council take in terms of absorbing best business practice into the arts development of the city to ensure all Cambridge venues, artists and residents thrive in terms of art success? Number 2. Given that the report states, quote, Cambridge Live would have been stronger and more effective if it had worked with the existing providers and community groups, and if it had used and learned from the expertise of the rest of the arts sector, it had a chance to be an organisation rooted in the arts and wider communities, but it fails to do so. The result was that it lacked the skills to survive and adapt and the ability to call on others for help and guidance, unquote. Has the council made a decision on its development plans for the old bingo hall stroke Old Dock Jazz Club? I think that's the one on Hobson Street. If not, how would it rate the cultural and commercial value of a combined arts incubator, subsidised arts office space, art school, art studio, rehearsal space in the centre of Cambridge to the life of the city, pulling together a great number of arts community, truly Cambridge Live, and would commit to exploring the viability of this with a cross-arts business entrepreneurial team drawn from the city? And number 3, given the financial losses incurred by the unfortunate failure of Cambridge Live, has the council ever considered the financial opportunity of repurposing the much-loved but acoustically tricky Cambridge Corn Exchange, I can testify to that because I've sung in there, as a prime location for business offices, and using the income derived from such a sale to create a world-class concert stroke arts venue, able to service a full range of arts and audiences? I kind of declare an interest there, having called for one named after Florence Ada Keynes off Harvey Road, Hills Road, while acting as a landmark venue in the east of England. If not, will it commit to exploring whether this idea is financially viable to recoup the costs incurred by Cambridge Live's demise, while also increasing the cultural offering and spend in the city by residents and further afield? And if not, why not? End. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. It's very kind of you to read those questions for us on behalf of Andrea Cockerton. And just before we...
So firstly, thank you for coming to the committee today to ask these questions. To the first question, the practical steps the City Council will take. The Council's arts development and the Cambridge Live services, which the Council now run, are discretionary services, as you probably know. As part of this, we manage a facility, some events and services, and we also provide advice, grants and guidance to the sector. But it is the responsibility of organisations to manage their own businesses. It's not the role of the council, we believe, to provide guidance on business to these organisations. To the second question about the working with existing providers and community groups and the lessons learned from the Cambridge Live review, you may be aware that the Council is currently undertaking a strategic, evidence-based approach to reviewing cultural infrastructure needs. There is a live consultation currently underway, commissioned in partnership with South Cambridge District Council, to gather information on creative workspace needs across Greater Cambridge. This will complement work already carried out on the provision of dedicated professional cultural space across the same footprint. The process of building a robust evidence base is a key part of developing a cultural infrastructure strategy which will inform future planning in the Cambridge area. It's important to look at questions of cultural infrastructure across the region rather than in a piece film made just in the city. Final question about the Corn Exchange in particular. Now that we have responsibility again for the Corn Exchange and its full operation, we will be looking at cultural infrastructure requirements as well as other improvements as part of our commitment to retaining the Corn Exchange. The Council will also work with the former LEP and Combined Authority as they undertake work requested by Government in May 2019 to develop a local industrial strategy which will cover arts and cultural requirements. Be happy to talk to you about any of these points in detail, if you like, after the meeting. We can arrange a time to do that.
Thanks for that, Debbie. So, Anthony, I don't know if it's possible, but you've read it for somebody else. But did you want to ask any follow-up questions on behalf of Andrea, or is that a bit difficult to do?
I can do because I've read the read the report.
Yeah, so 2 minutes and half a minute for.
Yes, it was a very, very hard-hitting report, and it's personally I was very disappointed that we didn't make, as a city, the most of what could have been a real success. I was one of the performers actually at the Corn Exchange when Cambridge Live was launched, so I kind of feel like a personal link to it in a way. On that final point, we had previous, I think it was a Cambridge and South Cambridgeshire leisure strategy, which actually covered the arts, which it came to an end in 2016, launched under the old Cambridge Horizons regime. And many of the things that were called for, including a large concert hall, weren't ultimately delivered. And so I think in whatever strategic review that you do, it's worth looking back at that report and asking why several of the things that back in the early 2000s we said Cambridge needed in the face of a growing population, we didn't ultimately get. I think also at the same time it's worth looking at that growth of population and ask what sort of arts and cultural facilities we need in the face of that growing population and why we haven't got them. And also finally at the same time how that links into public transport provision. Declare an interest as a founder member of the Cambridge Area Bus Users Group, and one of the things that Stagecoach said to us at our annual general meeting was that they were not having conversations with leisure providers over transport routes, and I said this is actually something that they need to look into, so I'd be grateful if the council could facilitate that. Thank you.
Thank you again, Antony. So Debbie, do you want to answer that? Do you normally have answers again for 2 minutes or more? Yeah. So is it? You don't have to, but if you've got something to say about that.
I think that's very important points that you make, Antony. The Cambridge Horizons documents are now out of date, as you suggest. However, they did include recommendations which are probably still pertinent to review at this point. As I mentioned earlier, the combined authority now has a responsibility requested by government to produce a local industrial strategy that must cover arts and cultural requirements, and very sensibly should also look at transport infrastructure that supports that. So we'll be following that up, and I'll be keen to involve you at an appropriate point within those discussions.
Okay.